So we are going to start. So thank you everyone for joining. We are going to talk about Lightning Data Service. So very quickly to introduce myself, my name is Fabien Taillon. I'm a Salesforce MVP. I'm CTO at Texai, which is a French consulting company. And you can follow me on Twitter with my Twitter handle, which is pretty basic, Fabien Taillon. So let's talk about Lightning Data Service. First, who in this room already know what Lightning Data Service is? Okay, a few of you. And who is already a Lightning component developer? Okay, so that's pretty cool. So let's have a look. So if you also, another question, does anyone never used Lightning experience? Well, you know how it looks like anyway. So when you have a page in Lightning Experience, if you have a look to this same page in App Builder, you see that it's not only one page, it's a page with several components on it. So if you look at this page, it's actually 4 components on it. So each component is separated from each other, but still is displaying information from the same record, which is opportunity. So what did you add to do before Lightning Data Service? Well, if you want to create your own custom component and put it on the record page, for instance, on the opportunity, well, you will create your custom component with some markup on it, a JavaScript controller, and you will have an Apex controller that maybe could be really basic, like I have my custom component on opportunity. I want to display name and stage. I will need to create an Apex class, do a SOQL query, and return everything, and use the JS controller just to pass the values from the markup to the Apex controller on back, which is pretty painful just to query a few fields. So if you have 3 components, your 3 components will do the same thing, which is querying values to the Apex controller. It could be even worse, because if you have separate components, even if they have the same fields, you will need to create 3 Apex classes. So that's pretty painful. If you have lots of things to do Apex side, you will need an Apex controller. But if you want to display only information, you will have a lot of work to do just to display information, plus all the call to the server. So let's have a quick example. Here, let's say I am an opportunity, and I will get, or maybe it's contact on my example, but all your components, it's separate components. So my first component will use these fields, name, phone, address, on a custom field. Second one will query 3 fields. And my third component will query 3 other fields. So you can see it's not the same component. I don't need the same information. But still, if you have a look on all these components, there are some fields that I need that are common to these 3 components. So if you look at this, you will create 3 Apex controllers that will almost look like the same if you just need to query the values. But it's writing 3 Apex class. And on a performance level, that means that we'll call 3 times the server and wait for 3 Apex class to execute before coming back to Lightning Experience and get the values. So what Lightning Data Service will change? So, well, to me, when I discovered Lightning Data Service, it was really a game changer, because I was coming from a Visualforce world, I guess from like a lot of people here, and I was used to standard controller. So I can create a Visualforce page with only a few lines of markup to display a few fields. It was like magic. With a Lightning component at the beginning, I was like, oh, I need to create an Apex class. I need to create a JS controller, which was just plumbery. Like I will take a value from this, get it on the JavaScript, put it here. It was quite painful to write something in Lightning. With Lightning Data Service, it will all the querying of the fields will be done for you. So what does it mean? If you have your 3 components like before, they won't directly call Salesforce backend, Apex. Lightning Data Service will do the job for you and there will be cache on locally on your client. That means that instead of having your JavaScript querying your Apex, you will just in the markup ask data service, give me these fields, and the local cache will return the fields for you. Let's have another look. So here I have my 3 same components as before. Instead of querying Apex, I'm using Lightning Data Service. So I won't ask my own controller, give me these fields. I will ask to Lightning Data Service, OK, I need these fields, and second component, I need these fields, and third one, I need these fields. Lightning Data Service will get all the fields of all the components on the same page, and will aggregate them and see that some components have common fields. And it will only query one time all the fields to the backend automatically, so you don't have to write any Apex, and get back all the values to the components. So it's pretty cool because you don't have to write Apex. And also, there is only one query, which is not done by you, but that improves performance. The other nice thing is that Lightning Data Service will know which components need which fields. So if one field is updated, all the other components that use, for instance, name will be notified. So you don't have to manage, like before, you have 2 components using name. One component is changing the name. I need to fire an event to say to the second component, change the other value of name because I've changed it. Lightning Data Service is doing everything for you. OK, so that was my slide. Well, it's even what is even better is that maybe if you add a new component and that there is already some information on the local cache, you may end up not even going back to the server, because Lightning Data Service will know that the information is already there, that it's up to date, because there is a sort of time where the cache is considered as valid. So I could add dynamically a new component 4, that will use the same fields and will just get the value from the page immediately. You won't have to go back to the server. But again, this is done, everything is done by Lightning Data Service, so you don't have to worry about how it's done. It's just easier for you and more performant. So just to resume from a code point of view, before you had all of this. So 3 components, 3 JS controller, 3 Apex controller. And now you have just this. So you just write 3 components markup, and all the other things, you just throw them away. So it's much faster. To the trash. So, lot of free time for you. So I don't know what you will do with this free time, but for me, I know what I will do. So if we have a quick look to the code to know what it looks like. So before Lightning Data Service, you had to write the markup of your component. And what did you write in here? It's a controller. So I will say, in my component, I will use this Apex class, which is an Apex class. I will need to have a handler to say, well, on the init of my component, do something. OK. So this is a JavaScript controller, so which is handling the init. So on this JavaScript, I will say, OK, from the controller I wrote before on the markup, use the getRecord method. And then enqueue action, and it will call the server for you. Then on the callback, you will just take the value and put them in your attribute, which is, by the way, will be the attribute of this component, component 1. If you have component 2 with some other fields, you will have duplicate attributes. And also just an Apex class that will query the values. Well, it should be a little bit better than that with maybe exception handling or stuff like that, but you get the idea. And also the test class. So that means a lot of code that you will write just to get here a name. With Lightning Data Service, you only need markup. So that means no other Apex or JavaScript in here. The nice thing is the magic is happening here, force record data. So you will have, like before, your Lightning input that will display the name. But instead of having controller, JS, and an Apex, you will just write one line of code where you will say, OK, so what I want is the record ID, which is coming from the page where you are on, so maybe opportunity, for instance. And here, a list of fields. So here, there is only one, but you could put several fields inside of here, inside of this fields attribute. And then you will say, OK, what you will query for me, put it in a record fields attribute. And then you display it here. So you don't do anything, actually. You don't even say to Lightning Data Service which object you are on. So if you are just displaying a name, you could have the same line on several objects if you want. And so record ID, list of fields, and that's it. It will do everything for you. So let's compare before and after. So as you can see, previously, you had to write lots of code. At the end, it's almost the same amount of code between here and here. Just that's it. It's all doing for you. And you don't have to manage, because this is a very basic example. But here I'm supposed to manage, I don't know, I'm passing an ID. Maybe the ID is I don't know, wrong. Maybe I don't have access to fields or stuff like that. You're supposed to manage a lot of more code here where you don't have to do anything with Lightning Data Service. So to me, again, coming from Visualforce, it is a big game changer. It changed a lot of things from this to this. It's magic. So a few other words very quickly. There are still some cases where you need to write JavaScript. It's if you need to save or update your record. This is pretty basic, actually. There is just one method that you need to call, which is so component.find record loader. Record loader is the name of the force record data attribute that you put. So where you set the ID and the name. So it will query for you, but if you find this component on the page, you just call save record, and it will save the record for you. Just you have to write JavaScript to handle maybe either error or even success. Maybe you want to show a toast that say, OK, the record was updated. But otherwise, all the save will be done for you. You don't have to write anything. No Apex, no anything. Just handling the result. OK, so all the benefits of Lightning Data Service. So first one is pretty great. There is no more Apex to write, which is a big time saver. No Apex class, which I'm sure you love, but you'll do some Lightning component testing instead. Security. This is also a big thing, because previously, so when you call an Apex class, the thing is that you have to handle field level security yourself, because all Apex is run in system mode. So that means that if I query some field that a user doesn't have access to, well, maybe I will put the component with lots of information, and I will just go to the profile of the user and check field level security, and I will think, oh, that's OK. It will work by default. Well, not really. With Apex, you need to check all fields that you are querying and check for the particular user running the query if he has access to the field or not. Otherwise, you might expose some fields on the page, and it should be, maybe it's not important, but it could be a security issue if you have some important field that shouldn't be displayed for end user, for instance. Or like if you have a community, this is even more important. So yes, shared cache. So that means less server call. I mean, this is really, to me, when I discovered this, it's really awesome, because there is no drawback, actually. It's just less work for you and better security and performance. So that's really great. All the cache is managed by Lightning Experience, so you don't have to think about it. Everything is done for you. All the values are updated across component. As I said, if you have 3 components, before it's 3 queries, 3 Apex class, so you have to refresh the component If you fire a force refresh view, it will refresh all the components to force them to get the new value. But that means that, again, you need to query 3 times the controller and get back to refresh the component with the good values, which is pretty lame on the performance side. So this will be done with Lightning Data Service for you. So even if you have your 3 components and you have the standard edit button, you will edit the component, change a value, let's say a stage on opportunity, click on save. And previously, you had to manage refresh view and query again. Here, it will work by default. So even the communication between standard component and your custom component will work out of the box. And yes, let's code executed. That's nice. And yes, so we can use it from the same subject type. You don't pass like account, opportunity, or stuff like that. Just the idea, and it will manage for you which component you want to use. Okay, so most of the objects don't have the same fields, so it's not maybe always useful. But with App Builder, you can get some generic component and say this component is available on account, contact, and opportunity, because it's generic enough, because I'm only using name or whatever. So you could, with Lightning Data Service, only use 1 force record data and 1 component. It will do the job for you and know, thanks to the context provided by Lightning Experience, which record it's supposed to query. So a few things, I'm not really sure where it's going, but when you look at the roadmap at Dreamforce or other events, last year, Lightning Data Service was in beta, so lots of objects were not supported. I think like case or stuff like that were not supported. Now almost everything is supported. I'm not sure exactly about the list, but I think it's pretty almost everything. But what's coming now, it's list support. So we are supposed to have at some point so we can query only 1 object so far, so it's nice, but if you want to display a row of, let's say, related contacts or opportunities, I still need to do it myself with Apex. So at some point, we are supposed to have a list support, so get me all the contacts. I don't know how it will work, but that's the idea. And so far, one thing is that it's only supported. It's not supported everywhere. So it's supported in Lex and Lightning Experience and Salesforce 1. I'm not sure it's supported in communities. I tried it, it's working, but I don't think in the documentation it said it's supported. But for instance, Lightning Out, there are lots of things in Lightning Out that are not supported, and Lightning Data Service is one of them. But it's lots of this area of improvement where it could go. But still, already having this in your page in Lightning Experience is already a big game changer if you write Lightning components. And that's it. I'm ready for all your questions. Yeah.
Does it count against limits? Because I mean, if it's only 1 record now, but when it comes to process list of records and you query thousands of records, does it count against the government limits? Or
Well, so far there is no list for Lightning Data Service, but for one, I would.
The 1 record, does it count against those now?
I don't know. I would say no, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
Can you, I know you don't know the full list of objects that you can use, but can you use things like custom settings or custom metadata? Can you
No. Well, I tried last year. It was not possible. But I don't think it's. Maybe we can query at some point custom metadata. It could be great. I don't know. When I tried, it was not possible. But it's an object with an ID, so at some point maybe. But not today. Yes.
If you're searching a component on a record page, does it respect like record types or dependent lists?
Well, you mean? I'm not sure. Where would record type be part of? Because you are only querying values that already exist.
So if you have a picture
Well, the thing is that so far it's only querying existing value. So
So it doesn't go down to that level.
there is also something that I've heard of that was supposed to be a sort of Lightning data service for metadata that would give you for a specific record like field labels or stuff like that. I guess here it would be important to have it, but otherwise I'm giving an ID, and even on a pick list, it will give me the value of stage. And I don't really need to know what are the allowed values in here. It won't give me the list of allowed values. So I think there is a way to write it when you create a record. But for querying, I don't even think you need it. I will check and I'll tell you after.
If you were saving it, you might need to know, because if you're presenting what values you can change.
Well, that's the thing actually. It's just querying the value that are in the table. So if you selected stage of 1, you will write in the field's name stage, and it will get you 1. But it won't get you the associated metadata of the pick list with all the values. This is something else.
If you override a standard button, edit or new button, will it automatically pick the new updated value?
Say again?
So if you override a standard new or edit button,
Yeah.
because it's just reading, right?
Yes.
When you shown the JavaScript as well, which you.
Well, JavaScript is only if you want to save. If you want.
So if I want to save, will it refresh the page automatically and show me the latest value, because it's mentioned that it is caching?
I don't know if I need to fire a force refresh view or not. I don't know what is in my example. Let's have a look. Yeah, so here I'm firing a force refresh view. So I assume I need to do it. Maybe that changed, but at the time, no. You know, this event says to Lightning Experience something has changed, so refresh the whole page. Well, the thing is that today I think you still have to write this, because even if Lightning Data Service would change everything for you, you may have on the page some components that are using Apex, and these components need to know that something has changed. They need to refresh themselves. So I would keep with this so far to be sure that all your page is up to date, and not only the few components that are using Lightning Data Service. Yeah.
So in your example where you had a read-only component which just displayed the contact's name, if you edited that contact's name, it would react to that change. Your component knows to react to it.
Yeah. So actually, when you try to edit a record, you can set 2 modes on Lightning Data Service. I don't remember the name, but one will say that you are just querying it for display, and another one for edit, which means that if your component is querying values in edit mode, it won't respond to changes from all the other part of the page. So if one name changes and you have your name in edit mode, it won't automatically change. You will have to do it yourself. It's an attribute of Lightning Data Service, like mod or edit or view, something like that.
But in reality, it sounds like the ideal use case is when you're kind of trying to present information. If you're doing any kind of interaction, you're still going to need to have some JavaScript or some Apex. In reality, it sounds like the best use case is for displaying additional ways of display, or better ways of displaying data that's outside of the normal detail.
If you would like to, let's say, override the edit action, you could use Lightning Data Service in edit mode. It will manage the save for you also. So it's not only displaying values, it will also help you to save or update your component. But that's true that as soon as it became too complicated with the relationship records, the list of values, etc., you will need to do Apex at some point.
And also, you don't need to. It's not limited to just displaying record from like in your example, you're looking at the contact. You could pull in account details or.
Exactly.
As long as you've got the ID within the.
Exactly.
As long as you know the ID.
Yes. Well, the idea here is that when you're on the opportunity page, you got the attribute record ID that is auto-populated by Lightning Experience. So you can easily put it as an attribute. It will do other job for you. But if you want to have a second force record, you can have several force record data on your component. So if you want a second one with, let's say, a related, you are on a contact, you will get the record ID of the contact. Let's have a quick look.
I guess my question was like, if you're on the contact and you want to display information around the account, like a related account, I was trying to see how you pull down.
So here I'm the contact. I will put the contact record. I will get, let's say, a account ID. All will be saved in this attribute, which is here. But I could have a second force record data below it that would say v.recordfield.account ID. And it will be the value here. Or you could even have a do init that will query a few stuff because it might be more complicated and put it as an attribute here, which would be a second attribute under this list. But I really like it. I'm just waiting for other stuff like metadata getting able to get labels, for instance, of the fields. It would be great. So I think we are out of time, but I can take a question after. Thank you very much.